Welcome to the Buying Your First Home podcast, your personal guide through the Australian housing market. Here we tackle the big questions and the small details that come up when buying your first home. From financial prep to finding the right neighbourhood, we're here to ensure that you've got all the knowledge at your fingertips. So let's take the first step towards unlocking the door to your new home. Hey guys, welcome to this month's Mortgage Minute, your go-to source for the latest in finance. It's been a big month, so let's start with interest rates. There's been, initially some predictions of rate cuts in 2024. Some commentators, CommBank, were saying there could be up to 2 rate cuts, but the latest data is saying inflation is remaining high, and it's making a bit of uncertainty for those rate cuts in the short term. So the RBA is going to rely on some of this evolving data, and the potential for rate increases are probably looking lower unless inflation persists. So I guess for home buyers, for you guys, for everyone out there, understanding these factors is important because it's kind of in the media. There was Warren Hogan, one of the economists out there, a couple of weeks ago said, the rates need to rise 3 times. And it was a bit of a headline grab. It looks most likely that the rates are on a downwards trajectory, but the rate cut, which, some of the banks were saying it could be as early as August and September this year, look like they've changed the predictions saying it could be November, December, or it could be early next year.
Yeah, so next up, there's some talk about the RBA being caught in a political spin. So despite popular belief, the RBA's own research suggests that Australia's high prevalence of variable rate mortgages doesn't actually make its monetary policy more effective. So what does that really mean? Well, essentially, the RBA is keeping its cash rate a lot lower than other global counterparts like New Zealand, the US, or the UK. And this is probably influenced by political considerations and a desire to preserve employment. And for homeowners, what does this mean? Well, in the short term, these low rates are potentially going to help sustain the housing market stability and affordability, but this tolerance of a higher inflation could impact your long-term financial planning. And if it's an investment property, it could also affect your investment returns.
Yeah, so oftentimes the media is trying to compare Australia to the interest rate markets of the United States, of New Zealand, Canada. But dynamically, we're in a different spot. We don't have as many fixed rates in America. You can get a 25, 30 a year fixed rate. Right now, the current stats are showing only 2% of people in the total market are actually fixing their rates. It's completely different to how it was during COVID. Even the RBA themselves have said there's still people on those low fixed rates for another 6 months or so, potentially until 2025. So there's still people coming off that, which is also going to influence their interest rate decisions. But I guess sort of fast forward to your own situation, it's worth reviewing. And if you need any help, if we haven't reviewed your home loan in the last 6 to 12 months, just reply back to this email. We can definitely check that out. Next up, Simon, we've got the pain and gain report. So this was an interesting one because it's showing some of the winners and losers in the property game. And it seems that time in the market is really the key here.
Absolutely. So the CoreLogic Pain and Gain report just recently released showed that 94% of homes resold made a nominal gain, with a median gain of these resales of about $310,000. So houses were more profitable than units, with the 97% of houses being sold making a gain versus 88% of units. But most importantly, as you've said, Jaden, properties that were sold within 3 years had a much higher rate of making a loss. So the key takeaway here is patience pays off. The median hold period for profitable resales was about 9 years. So if you've got a property, consider holding onto it for a longer period of time. That's going to greatly increase the chances of selling for a profit.
All right, so next up, Western Australia bans rental bidding. So this was a pretty terrible technique that was going through. Simon, do you want to take us through what happened here and what some of the impacts are going to be?
So as of May 16, 2024, Western Australia has actually banned rent bidding. So this was something that happened when you would go to rent out a place, and rather than listing an exact amount of rent, when you put in your application to rent for a property, you'd have to tell them how much you'd be willing to pay. So kind of like auctioning off the amount of rent that you would pay for a property. And it's not a great practice. It tends to inflate rents, not great news for people who are renting. And what this means now is that that's no longer an option. So if you violate the regulation, you do indulge in rent bidding in WA, you can get fines of up to $50,000.
Yeah, so tenants now have the right to challenge landlords in court if they face unfair rental increases or evictions tied to rental repairs. And for homeowners, and if you're an investor in WA, it means that you need to adhere, like the other states, to a rental price. If you put $500 a week, it needs to be that. You can't sort of jack that up over time. So pretty big penalties there. Interestingly, though, I guess on units, we've seen some data that was pretty surprising. Unit rents are rising faster than houses across Australia, and even unit prices in Brisbane have been rising quicker than houses over the last 12 months.
Yeah, so there's a lot of changes in terms of people's preferences for property, for renting, and even for buying in that case. There's a shift towards looking at units as a more viable option, even if you do have a family. So, house prices are getting more expensive. People are looking to units as an option. So this has increased the demand. The supply is still limited. The supply is the same as it was before this shift in demographic changes. And so this means that apartments and units are going to be more attractive to investors due to their affordability and the high potential yields. And if you are a property owner and you do have a unit, if you are looking at buying your second home, it's worth considering maybe keeping the apartment or unit as an investment and using that to fund the second purchase, because there is an expectation of pretty good returns in terms of the unit market over the next few years.
Yeah, interestingly, we've seen some crazy growth. One of our clients had put an offer on a unit in Yurongpilly for $780,000. It was at the upper end of where he's comfortable. He's like, well, that makes sense because there was a direct comparable sale, exact same unit in the exact same complex that sold 6 months before for $680,000, $100,000 less. The unit ended up selling for over $780,000, over $100,000 growth in 6 months. So we're definitely seeing, like you said, Simon, a change in preferences, I guess, because of affordability, even management and maintenance. Like, it's kind of easy to have a unit. So there are more preferences, more people getting more comfortable with that unit lifestyle living.
All right, so just to cover off what we talked about on this episode of Mortgage Minute. So, the interest rate outlook is different from what it was at the start of the year. The RBA is still going to be looking at most likely keeping interest rates the same, unlikely to increase unless there are some major changes in the inflationary figures. We talked about the prevalence of variable rate mortgages in Australia versus other countries and what that means. Definitely, if you are looking to sell your property, it's best to hold on to it for more than 3 years and ideally up to 9 years to get the best results. Western Australia has banned rent bidding, so great for tenants in Western Australia. If you are looking to invest or you are a property investor who is renting in WA, make sure that you are compliant. And we also spoke about unit rents. So unit rents are rising faster than house rents, which means that it's a great opportunity for investors. And if you do have a unit or apartment now, it's worth looking at keeping that on as an investment if you are looking to buy your second home.
That's it for today, guys. If you need any help with your home loan, you want a bit of a review, reply back to this email, hit us up below. Until next time, we'll see ya.